people too.
shows.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I hope it helps other people too. That's why I share.
Yeah.
How was that cruise, Tony?
It was fun and wet.
Oh, it rained? Oh, because you went to Alaska.
Yeah. We thought it might, but all right. One of the people that went with us was sick for 4 of the 7 days.
Oh
Oh.
no. That's
So
not
that was
good.
their first time cruising, so I don't know that they'll
Shoot.
do that again.
Yeah, Caesar and I took our honeymoon on a cruise to Alaska in June, 23 years ago. So
Yeah, there you
Huh?
go.
You want that one?
You don't want one?
I'm gonna go make
No,
one.
we have a blast with it.
You're just.
Yeah.
So was that your,
Mine.
Brandy, was that your favorite cruise, the Alaska one?
no, it wasn't. I do want to go back because what was I? I was 23 years old. And on this cruise ship, I think we were the youngest people on the ship by 50 years, 40 years. Because we chose Alaska. I don't know why. I think we thought, when else are we going to make it to Alaska ever? So we should go now. And I don't know. No, it's not my favorite, but I do want to go back because we had only saved up enough money to get on the ship. Like we didn't have the money to do excursions and everything else. So we didn't really get to see Alaska. But I have been there, just in port. We never made it out of port, but I do want to go back and actually see Alaska. So maybe Tony can share pictures of Alaska.
It's been all over my wife's Facebook.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I've seen some, I guess. All right, well,
A lot
sorry.
of whale watching, a lot of nature stuff.
Oh, good, yeah. Well, good morning,
Well, she's
everybody.
got relatives up there, so we got to go see them for a whole day. So that was good.
That's awesome. Well, I know John's leading the meeting today, so he's on. I'll be quiet now, John, your turn.
Oh. Hang on, I got my.
Can you hear me?
But Marines were always prepared.
I had one earbud in, I needed the other. How's everybody doing?
Doing okay.
Doing good.
Tony, you got to bring me back a magnet, an Alaska magnet. We collect magnets.
Do you? We only got one. It's got a little snow globe in it. But our grandkids love the magnets, so that's why we got that. So
That's cool. Very cool.
I think these are all the non-golfers today.
Yeah, everybody's out at a big golf tournament. What tournament is that, Brandy?
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same one. I know Ryan, Stephanie, and Tim are at one, and I don't know if it's the same one, the Wumley or something like that Lonnie's at. So I don't know if it's the same one or different. I don't know. I just know, I think it's for charity. So
That's cool. Yeah, I think Lonnie, Nathan, and Scott are, I don't know if I agreed. I'm not sure. I'm not a golfer.
I'm not either.
My son's actually golfing now, and I was like, where you been, man? I looked at Life 360. I was like, what? Text him like a week ago. I was like, what are you doing, JJ? He's like, what do you mean? I go, where are you at? He goes, you got Life 360. I said, it says you're at a golf course. He goes, I golf now, Dad. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, okay. I've never.
Since when?
I know, right? I'm like, I've never been. He graduated high school. He's 18, and now he's out golfing already. I'm like,
good. Start
you
early.
got to work on that money income, and then worry about golfing.
I love golfing.
It's funny.
Yeah.
My other daughter, Lori, is working on getting her real estate license. And she says something to me like, I love the math. I just really love math. And I'm like, since when?
That's the first
time
that's the first time I've ever heard someone say that about that test or
That's
about
so
that
funny.
class.
Anyway, so your kids sometimes surprise you.
Joanna, that is so true. So true. How's everybody's business going? Good? Is it? So the first topic I thought we'd talk about, James and I had this experience. We're actually in the process of co-oping a deal with Nathan Priest, and this happened the other day. So he actually has the listing. It's our buyers. I don't want to get crazy in the weeds on that because we're still processing through, next steps and all that, working on that today as well. But storm damage. So Tuesday afternoon, it was like, and the reason I bring this up, the listing, so it's a vacant property that is owned by like some out of state, I don't know all the details, but it's anyway, they're an out of state investment company. This is part of their portfolio. I'm sure Nathan probably does a ton of work with them or whatever, but he's their listing agent. And so anyway, just condition of property. We talk a lot about it in the winter time, which is easy to do because freezing pipes, leaky faucets, all this kind of stuff. I mean, you worry about that stuff, or dripping a faucet, keep the pipes from freezing, and that's kind of the no-brainer. The cold waiver addendum and stuff like that. But I don't honestly until the other day on Tuesday afternoon, and it was late, and then this actually went into yesterday. My clients went out there to show one of their excited, like, older kids that was back that hadn't seen it yet, because they like to dream and plan ahead and all this kind of stuff. So, and they got out there and they're like sending me a picture, like, "Hey, what happened to the deck? What happened to this? What happened to that?" And at first we thought, and I think it's a combination. I think there's there was some storm damage, right? Some tree limbs and different things like that, siding, because this was up in like Independence, which had a different experience than depending on where you're at in the metro. So do we have a solid plan for communicating with and our people, and then like following up as a touch opportunity for, not really lead gen, but just, we talk about our 36 touch program, 72 touch program throughout the year. Are we incorporating this time of year with ideas around, storm safety? How are you in the family? If the property is vacant, hey, did you guys have anybody go out and look at the property yet? Or is anybody actively doing that as part of their business plan? I thought that'd be a good conversation to have.
Nope, I'm not doing that.
Okay. Paul, Sandy, Marcia,
Nope.
you guys have been doing this for a minute. So would that be something that would be a good, follow up? Is anybody had experience with that, with property this time of year that got damaged, that was in the process or under contract to, on its way?
Process to closing.
I
and then
guess-
have something like that happen.
I guess I would just think that they would do an insurance claim.
Oops.
Because it's their property and there's damage. So I would think that they would just have to take care of it, the seller, of course,
Yeah, right.
because that's
So-
just, right?
Yeah, are we touching base with people we're under contract with? Sorry, I put my video on, but I shut it off and I can't remember how to turn it back on. So I gotta figure that out. It's not Zoom, it's something within my computer camera. So anyway, so I do have a listing that is under contract, and during the storm that we had a couple of days ago, water was going in the basement, and the seller was freaked out about it. So I told her to do a video of it, so that to do a video of it, and she did. And so the right thing to do would be to send it over to the agent that's under contract with, and let her know, what's up with it. And that, oh, by the way, we'll fix it because they did an as-is addendum. So anyway, is that what you mean? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I do follow up with them on these storms and make sure that they're not one of them, because I don't want to be like not in the know once something does, like we get to closing and they go, yeah, we had to get a new roof. Oh, really? Why? I want to know those things. So yeah, I did catch up with them. And oh, by
Well,
the
that
way,
was
they were fine with everything.
yeah, that was something James and I even talked about because we have like coming soon, like the pre-MLS. Sometimes we'll run 30 days on that. That's kind of our play that we, of course, we all coach up to that here at Southland, right? And
Mhm.
and it's easy to have the weather come and go, and then just, I guess, be like, oh, that goes on the market June 26th, or whatever, and not. And in all actuality, yesterday, him and I were both like, because I was like, hey, did you see those photos? He's like, yeah. And then I was like, we probably ought to consider implementing this, right? As like part of just like we would do in the wintertime. And that's why him and I got to talking about it on our team. James and I was, and of course, he always has better ideas than I do because he's like, yeah, we could just, we've already got the group text going with him and we could just do a simple, And I was like, that's good. I like that. And so we really haven't done that. As an individual agent before he joined me, like spring, summer, I didn't really make it a habit. But now, like if you have one every week, say we have bad weather for 4 weeks in a row and each week you have a storm come through, I was like, that's a good idea, James, because that gives you an excuse to reach to those same people, which otherwise, to Sandy, like our point is like sometimes we're going to contract and we're just kind of on cruise control. We're like, oh yeah, we're co-oping with, with Nathan. He's in our office and, it's great. And it's going to close on this date. We got to get this done. And so we're kind of forward thinking when we should be more active mindset of going, yeah, storm just came through. Everything's good at my house. I probably ought to text every buyer and seller that I'm working with right now that's an active client, whether we're under contract or not, and just be like, hey, did you guys weather the storm okay? So it's just, anyway, it's just the concept of one more way that we show compassion, show the care call, right? Like we all build our business on the care call. That kind of came from the COVID era because it was like certain places were locked down and, remember that time it was weird. And what we talked about at Southland, and of course, Cass County stayed open, had the wisdom to see through that. They, the big thing then was like, just make care calls. A lot of people are in fear right now. What's one of the best ways we can call them up and check in on them? But that's kind of where we were having this conversation yesterday afternoon with all of this stuff coming to fruition and getting these pictures from one of our clients that, it's around sundown and the lights dimming and they're like, oh my gosh. And it's a damaged property and it's all this kind of stuff. So I thought, well, that's a good thing to talk about with our call. It's like, well, we could, or we should, because we haven't been, but we're going to make it a point to use that as one more way to touch our people. Because even people we work with, I think we all go through those changes up and down emotionally, or maybe they've got something going on in their life, or maybe they got a kid moving out and you're currently trying to find them, a place to buy because that's the only way that they're going to sell, that kind of thing. And finding a new way to have just one more conversation to build that connection, that bridge even stronger. Is kind of
that kind of just, what is it? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Those are along those lines. They're care calls.
Exactly right.
Basically.
I'm going to do that now that you said something. But I've got one that's been under contract. He's got pushed back. Closing got pushed from April to July, as happens when lawyers are involved. And it's empty. And it's been empty for 8 months. So that's probably something we should go check on now. My neighbor's tree fell down, and it was in the evening. Minimal wind at that point. Everything had chilled out. We were sitting on the couch and heard the neighbor's tree fall down, and it almost took out their deck, but it missed it. Didn't even occur to me to think that that's going on at the properties we got under contract. So we're gonna be going over there to check it out today.
Well, Josh, you just made a great point. That's a great opportunity. Because you and Paul had a post a while back about one of your tree contractor buddies. I remember seeing on your social media. That's a great opportunity, right, for you to be like, hey, just want to call, see how you're doing. I'm driving out there, take a look at it with you. And then, oh, by the way, I know one of my preferred business partners that would love to come over here and help you guys out or give you a bid or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bummed because the neighbors they were going to rent a bucket lift like next weekend to cut it down, and they have to drive through our yard. So we were going to get it for an hour and a half in exchange. They don't need it now; it's already on the ground. So I'm a little bummed that their tree fell, but yeah, I mean that's yeah, reaching out there. We've got another one that's under contract that nobody's living at. But yeah, we have no idea. Probably more likely water and basement than, but that's worse. Can be
Yeah.
much worse than a tree. So yeah, I think checking on those. That's something I didn't think about that I'm going to be sending text after our call. So thank you. I'm already look at that. 15 minutes in, I'm already getting value. It's awesome.
You know, that could be something
you're
to
good at
add to a smart plan or something too, that maybe this time of year you have an email going out saying, hey, you know, storms happen a lot this time of year. If you need tree help, this is a couple people I might refer, or, you know, or it could just be a spontaneous email, not a smart plan. So just a thought.
I like that smart plan idea.
Yeah.
Same
I
with gutter
just,
clean outs and all that stuff.
I just text the co-op agent with me because we're under contract at a property 151st and Plum. And the other day when I was watching the weather, the severe weather, they were saying we're spotting tornadoes around 151st and Plum. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's right where. So I just texted her to say, hey, did you guys have any bad weather? Because I didn't even think about it. I mean, I thought about it when I was watching the weather, but I didn't think about reaching out to her afterwards. But I thought, oh, I hope the house is okay. But she didn't answer me back yet, so we'll see.
Well, and that's just that, Joanna, to you and everybody's point, and Sandy said it best. I mean, it's like that old saying. I mean, our business grows when our clients realize that they are the focus of what we do, right? So serving them empowers us to professionally provide guidance and counseling that gives them clarity on what direction to go. And then that in turn builds that trust, that builds that bridge that goes, hey, every time I got an issue, I'm going to call Joanna. Every time, hey, I need a plumber, I'm going to call Josh, you know, or whatever. So that was something else. We'll just evolve into that referral program. So on the pivot shift ahead call this morning, they've been doing this daily listing series. I don't know if anybody's been queuing in on that. It's James Shaw in the morning, 7:30 or 7:20. I typically incorporate them usually on the backside of my wind down on a morning routine workout type thing or stretching, and I'll click that right at 7 on, you know, Facebook or on the download link to listen in, because they, you know, it's people all over the country. So I like it because even though real estate's always local and hyper local now, excuse me, the perspective of other people and how they're navigating like the coastline economies and then the Texas economy, which I believe Texas has its own everything, right? Own utilities, own economy, all that. So they're kind of in their own world. But then like the Southeast and Florida. So, but on the listing thing, it was cool because the last couple of days they've been focusing on the phases of building a good listing based program. But then today the focus was business partnerships with contractors. So they called it your preferred service providers, your PSP list. And I like that. One of the people brought that up, or James Shaw, somebody did, but it was PSP or whatever. Preferred service provider, I think is what they called it. But basically they're business referral partners, contractors, tree guys. Josh said like plumber, you know, who do you call in the basement floods? So I think the focus, my takeaway was, how can we better critique those relationships of our top 3 or top 4, whoever that is, right? And asking them for that return service. So how many of us have you guys had success building a preferred service provider relationship to where you're getting reciprocal business back from people that you're otherwise sending thousands of dollars to? I guess is the question. Has anybody done a good job of making that a focus this year and part of our business individually? Are we taking them to lunch? Have we scheduled are we making that an active part, like maybe once a month, or maybe it's once every other week? we're making an active, or I should say, we're making a priority to say, hey, I'm going to send my plumber a gift card, or I'm going to see if my lender can go grab tacos, or maybe it's coffee or something, but just a value of showing appreciation, and then specifically asking for the business of referring. Hey, would you guys mind referring? I know 1,000 agents, but not all of them send you 10 jobs like I have in the last 12 months. How do we do that?
I have tried to do that, build that kind of business in the past. And I got one lender to give me people, but once I sent her somebody to get them pre-approved and everything, and they shopped her, she came back to me angry. So I was like,
What
she
happened?
goes, I believe you referred them to another lender. Well, first of all, I didn't. They just shopped her. And so then I thought, well, who are you? So I kind of told her, when you stop referring business to other realtors, I'll stop referring business to other lenders. And that's kind of where I stopped with it. I thought, I don't want somebody making me use them.
Yeah.
Like that.
You want to have the freedom to get whoever's best for your people.
Yeah.
Because their situation may not be a fit for that lender or whatever.
Yes. That was exactly what happened. And it hindered our relationship after that. So I'm like, maybe I don't want their referrals, because I'm not going to be held to them. I'm just not. So
Well, and
yeah, it hindered our relationship. We didn't really do business after that.
I think it's a little hard when I do use like the same people over and over again, but I also know they do. I've only been in the business 7 years. I'm sure they know these realtors for 20 years. And so I know they have a whole bunch of realtors. It's kind of hard to ask them for referrals. So I never really have, just because, and I don't know, I just never have, but it's a good idea to. I think it's a good idea, but like I said, I'm just one of 100 that they know. And it's like, well, I don't know.
We've had this discussion with our coach, because we're in a group like BNI, and what the coach suggested is, if I refer a plumbing job to somebody, it might be $300, right? If they refer a deal to me, it might be $8,000. So, and yeah, they know multiple agents. So what he suggested is talk to them and say, hey, I've sent you a couple of deals, and I know a bunch of agents. And I know it's tricky for you to figure out who to send real estate referrals to. So just so you know, all that would really be helpful for me is one a year. If you could send me one a year, that I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, and that way you're taking that pressure off of them, and they're not having to decide, well, shit, who do I send all my business to? You tell them, hey, just send me one. And if you tell 10 people that, maybe you'll get 10 referrals, 10 different business partners. So
Yep.
Yeah, to that point, there is, you're taking the pressure off yourself as well.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And maybe being specific.
Kind of,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, training them a little bit too, saying, hey, Mr. Plumber, I'm really looking for this referral in this neighborhood. Next time you come across one in Raymore, I want you to send it to me. Or with your insurance guy, hey, next time somebody calls and ups their life insurance, see if they're having a baby. Do they need a bigger house? Kind of train them to think of you when they hear and come across these things.
I think it's important.
I'll cut you off, Paul. That's fine. And with lenders, I was going to say, I received a referral from a lender, and I was surprised to get it. And then I found out and they chose me because of the specific situation, not because I'm the best real estate agent, because they may be related to one that's much better than I am. But first time buyer, young couple, approved up to 135. That's unfortunately my typical client, and I've kind of made that known for kind of that I call myself a first time buyer specialist. I haven't taken a class. I don't know what you need to call yourself that, but I consider myself that. So kind of trained. So when, especially in our referral group, when they come across a first time buyer, they've shared it with me instead of my dad, because I've kind of set that tone. So it's at least a little easier. They know, all right, this person, send to this person. instead of just, because I'm not going to get all of that lender's referrals by any means, but I can get that one.
You know, and I think it's important to if there's someone you've really sent business to, you might say, hey, you know, when you see someone ask for a realtor on Facebook and you put my name there, that's with 50 other freaking agents. That really doesn't do a whole heck of a lot for me. I appreciate it, but it doesn't do much for me. If you're able to get their phone number, that really means a lot more, and it really is much more effective, you know, because that we've all been there. People tag us on Facebook, and you're one of 100 freaking agents. It's really kind of worthless most of the time. But that's just my thought. But
that's a good point, Paul. You know, I think we've all seen those tags, and you know, probably everybody on this call, I'm sure at least once or probably many more times has had their name dropped out there, and it's like, do I get lost amongst the 374 replies?
Right.
Probably.
Yeah,
Even
sure.
send them like a little message, you know, and they sometimes they'll send back like a thumbs up or something, but they probably ran with that. You mentioned coaching too. That's starting that this year, and one of the first things that we've been doing is breaking down our business, as you know most coaches do. And so and he said something that I hadn't thought about, and because I had broken down, I said, well, 8, you know, I'm just not TMI, but I'll just give you an example. But like James and I's breakdown was 85% sphere SOI, right? Is this the way I did it? I said so 85% SOI, 10%. This speaking to last year's business, 10% was people we didn't know that someone from our sphere sent us to us, right? And then the other like 5% was basically like referral, like we're talking about today, business partners, stuff like that. Because we don't get a whole lot. I mean, to your point, Paul, like they all know 1,000 people, you know, and or 1,000 realtors out of the 13,000 that are in Kansas City and all this stuff. Well, anyway, he had replied back and he said, so you're 100% referral based business. And I was like, no, it was 85, 10, and 5. But he was making the point. He's like, yeah, but even people in your sphere know maybe a dozen other realtors. So if you're working hard, even though it's sphere and it's people you know in your SOI, and it just caused me to go, I like that, you know, because I never thought of it like that. I was compartmentalizing people like, okay, I've known these people 20 years in my mind, right? In my mind, I'm like, oh, I've known them 20 years. And, you know, you and I had previous careers. All of us have, unless you're one of these young guys or gals. But I just hadn't thought of it like that. And he was like, well, let me offer you the perspective to look at that as you are actually running 100% referral based business, because if they are coming to you, they're coming to you as their go-to guy when they know a dozen other realtors and maybe had done business with someone else. So anyway, his whole point at the end of it was, this is why the crucial bridge of trust that we build with our people is so important. And to Sandy's point, like the care call, and then they don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. And it's like, yeah, I do need to, you know, storm did roll through, and yeah, maybe the tornado was up in, you know, Raytown or wherever it was at, North Kansas City. Sending them a text just saying, hey, do you guys have any storm damage? Anything I can help you with? Show up like Josh and look at the tree that came down, because that might evolve into another piece of business, but we're not doing it because of the business. We're doing it because we're showing them how much we care, because we're going to show up and look at the limb that's, you know, on the ground, and possibly we can help you find somebody to chop it up and get it out of here. And then they're like, wow, no other realtor did that. Josh showed up, you know? So anyway, I mean, go on that, but that's just a new perspective. I was like, yeah, I never thought of it like that. I was always breaking it down like percentage wise. He's like, well, it's kind of like the whole, every conversation you have could be an interview. So go ahead, Paul. You got something else?
Oh, it's not really related. So I was debating whether I should say it. But you mentioned coaching, and you're newer to it, I assume. And
yeah, first time. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And you know, I started it a few years ago after spending years thinking it costs too much. And whether it's KW or Tom Ferry, wherever you go, the more expensive one's like 12, 13 grand a year. And there's cheaper options. But with referrals from that, it's paid for, and then you get to go to events for, without paying for the tickets to go to those events. And if you guys are even on the fence about coaching, I'd consider you to check out options and see, I got one that's going to close in Lewisburg that'll pay for minus the 25% I pay that other agent. It'll almost pay for my whole year of coaching with one transaction. So, something to think about, if you connect with other agents across the country and you can get referral business, 2 or 3 of those a year could take care of that coaching expense. And, it's easy to justify it when that's the case. But a little side note, but just wanted to mention that. So,
do you do KW coaching or Tom
no,
Ferry?
We're in Tom Ferry, our 4th year. Where our coach is actually Patrick Ferry, Tom's younger brother, maybe the baby. I don't know. There's 4 or 5 of them. And we have a master. He has our coaching call, but he, unlike a lot of other coaches, we have 3 other mastermind options a week with him, and we don't do them all. We can't get on everything, but and there's another one with members from that group and others that meets at the same time as this one, and it's a YouTube mastermind call about getting into YouTube, and it's agents from all over the place. And one of them sent me a referral 3 weeks after I joined the mastermind call. There's that one didn't pan out, but it was a referral. They saw somebody on a friend who lived in Houston, then moved to Kansas City, that posted on Facebook they're looking for an agent. So they called them and said, hey, you need to call this guy. And so we spoke, and their financial situation didn't pan out yet, but they're in the pipeline still. So I don't know. There's something to consider.
Did you turn that into a drip did you turn that into a nurture campaign to help get them the help they need to?
That'd be really smart to do that. Yes. That's one of my ongoing torments in my head, and Josh's should be, is that we need to systemize some of our stuff. And we haven't done that yet consistently. So that's something in the works. And, it's just hard to, you got 2 ADHD guys who need to do things sitting at a computer for hours a day. And that's a struggle. So fortunately, his sister is going to join our team, has already marketing wise, but might be getting her license when she moves back here, and working with us too. And she can handle that stuff that we don't like to do. So,
well, to your point there, typically I did coaching for for a year or 2. I thought I needed to do it. It was KW coaching, and I really enjoyed it. It does hold you to the fire, and I did double my business that year. So if you don't get referrals, you're going to do more business because you're held accountable. So the key
do you still do that, Sandy? Do you still?
No, I don't do it still. My husband wasn't a fan of it, so I'd have to sneak it now, which I could. Yeah, he thinks it's crazy that people need people to tell you what to do. Like,
he's a Marine.
He's a Marine. He's a self-starter kind of guy. So he just thinks it's
he
crazy.
Starts his own engine, man.
Yeah, he starts his own engine. He's there on time, all that stuff. But most humans are not like that. And I think Marines are like that just because they lived it so long. Like he lived that 25 years. So there are no excuses. You can't have excuses. So,
Josh was talking about something the other day, and you just reminded me of it. He was telling me, he met a buyer or met a young lady at a chamber event, a year ago, Josh, or more. And then she bought a house after they continued communication and stuff. And then he says, yeah, I door knocked once and dropped off flyers, and I got a deal out of that, and I never did it again. Or, I was in coaching to double my business, and then I stopped. We shoot ourselves in the foot way too much in this business. And sometimes it takes a while for us to figure out that we did it, but I'm guilty myself. But something to think about. If something's working, why the heck are we stopping?
Yeah, why quit? Because you think you've got it
Great
figured
point.
out because you doubled your business. That's why.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But in all actuality, why would you quit? Because it paid for itself
Right.
more than once.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I have a question that's not related. Can I ask it?
Absolutely, Joanna. Yeah.
Okay. So, Lonnie always talks about when he has a listing, he always gives his people a couple extra days after closing to stay in the house to move out,
Mhm.
right? Do you guys do that? Do I have a buyer right now, and we signed our contract originally, and the day that we signed it, and of course, when you're trying to get your buyer under contract and you've lost several of them and you're getting not, I wouldn't say desperate, but they were, we were looking for a house for probably 3 months. And then we finally get one, and we were going to get under contract, and she said, okay. Well, she called me right after we signed, and she said, hey, listen, my sellers want 5 days after closing to be able to move out. And I'm like, no way. So I talked with my buyer, and they're like, no, we'll give them 2 days and that's it. And but now that we're getting closer to the closing, he's a little frustrated because he's like, wait, now, and we filled out that occupancy after closing because I feel like that's important. We wrote on there, he needs to send a check to me for $1,000 made out to the buyer so that if something happens wrong, he's covered for a little bit, dings and stuff like that. But it's becoming a little bit of a source of contention. And like, he didn't remember that we signed that amendment like right after we signed the contract to give them 2 days. And he's a little bit, he's a little frustrated because actually I didn't remember that we signed the contract. And when I was looking at the closing dates, I was looking at our contract, which our contract closing date was the 27th. But that same day she sent an amendment and changed it to the 26th. And I forgot about that. So I know Lonnie says sometimes, the end of the deal, everything is sweet up until then. We sold his house that he had. Now we're going to finish on buying the house. And like, if you mess up at the end of the deal, you could put a bad taste in their mouth with like, because that's what they remember. So I'm just curious, do you guys do that with this occupancy after closing? Do you utilize that, or do you just kind of say you sign the papers and turn over the keys when it's funded? What do you guys do?
I think that form's important. I will say that
Of
because
course,
that
yeah.
dictates the insurance piece.
Right.
You got to know whose stuff is covered and whose stuff isn't, first of all. And they need to know that. But me personally, I don't like 2 days. And I had this battle with my own son. He's like, I'm going to keep the house for 2 days after closing. And I said, no, you're not. I said, it's just as easy to pack 2
Yeah.
days prior to closing than it is to pack the day of closing. Why would you wait? And so we had to go through that deeply with him as my son. And guess what? He drove his U-Haul truck to closing. I did win that, but
Well,
that is a
and
great question.
but
I
the
don't
truth
do it.
is, the truth is the seller was, giving excuses. Well, they can't get the keys till they close, and all that stuff. They need our closing for them to close on their house because
Right.
the thing is, with today's technology, they could have put pods in front of their house. They could have been out the day of
Yes.
closing and just go to a hotel that night. You know what I mean? So I feel like I was trying to be like on both sides to help them because they have a new baby. They have a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I was trying to like help them too. But really, I'm supposed to be for my guy. That agent is for that guy. And we need to try to work together. But it would have been just as easy for them to have pods, pack it up, and just you close. And then maybe that night you go spend the night at your mom and dad's house, or you go to a hotel that night. And then the next day you got the keys for your new house. So I'm
Yes.
I'm rethinking this thing about occupancy after closing because it's a pain in the neck is really what it is.
It
That's what I
is.
think.
And I did it for my seller one time. I ended up doing it. They kept the house for 2 days. Their movers went in and moved the refrigerator and scratched the floor all the way out the door. And it was my seller. So my
Yeah.
seller called me, which was very nice that she did that, because they would have noticed, because it was a blonde color floor that they had just redone. And so they were nice and everything. And we talked to the other agent and we ended up getting money for it, I believe. And they were going to have it fixed after closing, after they got out of it. But sometimes it doesn't work out like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan.
Yeah,
Just
McKay,
works
go
the
ahead.
same here. For me, it just depends on the clients. Like, has this seller been a huge pain in the neck the entire time? Then no, I probably wouldn't give them. But if it was one of those 10 out of 10, it was cleaned and polished before the inspection kind of homes. I mean, you can kind of get a sense, and that everything's already packed up. I feel more comfortable on those situations. And same with my clients if I'm on the seller side. But no, I've done it quite often. Knock on wood, haven't had any huge issues with it. But again, I don't do it for every client. I kind of, or every house.
Agree.
Okay.
I agree. You kind of look at the whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used it last week, and we actually did win the offer because we did give them 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then a separate situation, the agent verbally told us that they accepted our offer because there was another offer. And an hour after that, she texts me and says, "Oh, they're only willing to pay 2.5%." And I said, okay. So I called my clients and a little back and forth, and they came back and said, "We'll pay the 3% and we'll take your offer." And I'm like, okay, well, you already said that once. And then my buyers turned around and said, "We don't want to buy a house from these people if they're already going back on their first acceptance. Like, what else will they go back on?" And we were, that 2 days won us over paying more money. And then the good story is my clients found a house that's $10,000 less in Peculiar, and it's so much nicer, and they're buying it instead. So, and we're under contract again. So, but yeah, thanks. But yeah, just that 2 days, we were like, oh, well, we'll give 1 day when we were discussing. And then when I wrote the contract, I had prepared my buyers. I said, I'm actually going to do 2. So they take our offer because it's just 2 days. We can do this. And it did help us win it. But the seller and their agent costed themselves literally over like an $1,800 commission because my buyers, it made them really mad that they said they accepted and then went back on their word.
I tell you, I'm to a point now where I don't even share verbal offers with my clients much. If they're and even if an agent says, "Oh yeah, we'll get an offer to you tomorrow," BS. 90% of the time, you don't see it for a couple of days. I'm just trying not to get my sellers excited anymore because until I see something on paper, and for me, I've learned that the hard way. I'll tell them we got this deal coming or this offer coming, and it doesn't come or it comes in differently, and then you got to correct it.
So Paul, I think you made that right there at the very end is how we've evolved on our team to handle that exact situation, because we've had the same thing happen, and I have the same sentiment. But in the event of never wanting to miss anything professionally, the communication we always send out is either a text or a call, and it's basically, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, just letting you know we did receive a verbal offer. Here's what they said. But of course, we've asked them to provide that in writing. So if and when we receive that, we'll get it to you. But in the meantime, just a reminder, man, a verbal is just a verbal. Because to your point, Paul, if it ain't written down, it doesn't exist, and that's legally binding as well, right? So, but I think as a professional, at least a lesson that we learned was, even in the event that someone is, we want to bulletproof our transactions on both seller and buyer side to a place where they understand that John and James are paying attention to every single step of the way. And we're going to communicate that one way or another. But to your point, we remind them, if it ain't written down or we don't receive it, it doesn't exist, because I've had other agents call in multiple offer scenarios. I'm sure you've gone through this too. And they're like, hey, we gave you a verbal, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you never turn nothing into us. Like I'm not
Right.
going to chase you down and tell you that, we've sent out the blast. You guys were on the showing list. You got the broker bay notification that best and final by Sunday at 6 or whatever it was. Right. That said, yeah, if they don't write it down, Paul, you're exactly right. It doesn't exist. They don't get it
And
to
the
your
same
people.
kind of applies to the inspection information. An agent might say, oh yeah, they're only going to ask for a couple little things. Then you tell your people that, then all of a sudden they want a septic tank replaced. And you're like, well, so I just had that happen.
$30,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute, that's BS. And so yeah,
Mhm.
I keep trying to remind myself, you might have heard something, but I'm not even going to share it till I know.
Well, yeah, Paul, that's good, because when we were in the negotiation for this deal, it was a $750,000 house. It was a brand new home, like 2 years old. It was beautiful. The comps were right. We wrote an offer for 750. We gave them everything they were asking for and gave them the 2 days extra. And we didn't hear back from them for 24 hours. And so my buyer's saying, what's going on? So the agent texts me and says, they're considering countering. I'm like, countering? What would you counter? And I said, do you have any other offers? And she said, no. And I'm like, I don't get it, And so I said that to my buyer, that they were considering countering, and that we almost walked away from that deal, but that made him really mad that they were considering a counter when we gave him a full price offer at $750,000. And so he's like, I'm just ready to walk on this. And so I realized, okay, I cannot share things that the agent says to me, just hold them in and just kind of let the deal go without speaking it to your clients sometimes, because they might develop an attitude like Shelby's client that said, forget it, we don't want this anymore. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And
it's
Joanne, you
tough
make a great
lesson.
point. I think we're all learning
Yeah.
on a daily. Each one of our clients really speaks a different language, right? I mean, even if well, like figuratively or metaphorically, but
Yeah.
they really do. Like everybody has their own communication style, and I think that's a great point for all of us, because we probably have all been in that place. I don't want to miss Micaiah's comment since I'm running or have the call here, but she I'm doing this off my phone because I'm still waiting to get my new computer booted. Should have it. But she says, I prefer closing and possession to be at the same time. I don't like the delay. Worst case scenario is possession is delayed same day until 5 p.m. or next day. And so I think that's kind of a great guideline for all of us to follow, as far as maybe that's a cornerstone of approach, or maybe that's kind of the quote. Well, I think Darren said one time, don't ever use standard, but like that's kind of the expected approach maybe, and to every deal. But I think this is a great question that you posed, because Joanne, I think the bigger thing is for how do we as individual agents or on a team, I know James and I struggle with this constantly, because we're constantly evolving to our people's, to your point, Joanne, to your people's scenario or whatever their situation is, or however their expectations are. So maybe that would be a good script or dialogue class or coach class to have, where we all get together and discuss, or on a team day or something, where it's how are we building in the conversation if the post closing occurs, because that evolved through COVID, where if you're doing business in Jackson County, we were just talking about this morning, but if you're doing business in Jackson County during that time, you couldn't even hold open houses there for probably 3 or 4 or 5 months or whatever. But you go down to Cass County and we're still holding open houses. Paul and I were outdoor knocking, and it's things are because it was literally county by county. But the point is that post closing conversation really became relevant at that time, and then e-signatures, title changing their processes and policies to where we could allow things that we didn't typically take that quote standardized approach to. So all of that is to say, you know, how do we incorporate in the conversation from listing appointment to shopping, you know, because that seller's going to be a buyer, to your point, and Shelby's point earlier with her people, and how do we incorporate the reminder of coming back to that conversation and saying, hey, we did do an amendment, hey, just FYI, but in the very, very beginning of the listing and or buyer agency appointment, making sure that we incorporate into that. By the way, the question I would say is, like James and I are saying now, and we're just changing this, but are we asking the seller, are we asking the buyer, do you guys anticipate that where you're going and what you're wanting to do, you're going to expect to either have a a post closing time frame addition? Like, is it 24 hours? To McKay's point, are we doing funding on this? Are we going to do 1 day? Are we going to do 5 days? Because there was some even up to, I think some people had like even up to like a 30-day rent back, and that's another conversation. You know,
Well,
if we're
that's
doing
another,
do a rent back or a lease back. You know, but anyway, I think just having those tools, that might be something good to do a scripts and dialogue class to coach up to, and all of us to evolve. Maybe that's part of something that we evolve into our business in the listing presentation and or the buyer's agency agreement conversation when we meet with them in person and say, would you guys be people that would be expecting or looking for staying here, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, or whatever? Anybody else got anything else on that? Sorry, I gotta send this text real quick.
I just want to give a reminder and an invitation, you know, Thursday at 2. Next Thursday at 2. I better check my calendar here. We'll be teaching about ChatGPT, specifically the when you pay $20 a month, you get a whole lot more functionality and use out of it as far as personalization and stuff. So we'll be talking about that next Thursday at 2. Even if you haven't paid for that yet, go ahead and come if you're curious, and we'll show you what you can do with it. It's for $20 a month, or more importantly, what it can do for you. And we're gonna, you know, Joe and I are gonna do the tech on the tech at 2, second and fourth Thursdays of the month. So he'll be doing the second one, I'll be doing the first one with Josh, and we'd love to have you guys attend. So just
that's on the 12th at 2:30
yeah
at the office there.
2:00.
Oh, 2:00.
Tech on the 2s. We're kind of trying to make
Tech on
it
the
easy to
2s,
remember.
okay.
So
Got it.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Have you looked into the AI that was added to Command?
I haven't played with that much yet. We've got so many different AI things we have access to that you can try. It's kind of like everything else. You can learn 5, or you can focus on 1 or 2 and really just get the most out of those. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Our coaching company has a really great one too, and we haven't jumped into that much yet either. And but our coach is very big on the AI, and if you saw that post I shared the other day, Seth Godin, the Purple Cow author, the marketing guru, he said basically, if you don't learn AI and make it part of your business will be irrelevant in the future. So there's a lot of good stuff you can do with it. So
that's a great point, and I think so much of that is so, well, it's so beyond me, of course, but I mean, it's so, to your point, I mean, nobody really knows where it's going to lead, but it's better to have a grasp on utilizing it, even if it's on a small micro level, right? To, like, I think you've done descriptions, you've done a couple different videos on the private page. So just, I think having that basic understanding, that's good. You guys are doing that class, because that'll give all of us an opportunity and allow to do that.
And I am far from tech savvy, so I am not. Josh would confirm that. I don't type crap into. I talk.
We're Gen X, man.
I mumble what I want, and it comes out all. You know, I'm just like, oh, I'll do this, and then I change it halfway through, and it knows what I'm trying to say, and it figures it out. I don't have to know everything I want when I even ask it for something, and then it can correct it and edit it, and And it's the next things we're doing with it is we're going to use it to systemize all the stuff that we don't do and help us with that. All your Gary Keller systems that are in that book that I read 7 years ago. I'm going to ask it to help with that and to do the Gary Keller way because it knows that it can look it up. So we don't have to overthink this stuff. A lot of it thinks for us,
Right.
and it's kind of scary. So.
Yeah, to your point, we've done some Siri AI. You get the Ask Siri, and then you get the AI overview at the top.
Mhm.
We've done some of that just on conversating on with James and I with like what's going on today with interest rates, just as an example. But it's interesting because the AI overview oftentimes it'll have its overview, and then below it'll have a summary, and then below that it'll have a definition, then below that it'll have, but it's doing this multi-layered breakdown. And when you scroll down through that, it's kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole because you'll get going down all this news that's out there on stuff that you otherwise wouldn't hear about, but it's literally summarized at the top of that AI overview.
Right.
And so that's just even a simple, very simplistic, without summarizing, because we can all just push our button and say, "Hey Siri," and then ask whatever question it is. But just that, doing that, like, "Hey Siri, what's interest rates doing today?" Or, "Hey Siri, what's the housing economy in Texas look like?" Or give me an overview for the house economy in Texas. Because if you're getting ready to send a referral to a KW Texas agent, or somebody going from Kansas City, Texas, then we can provide that more value to say, "Hey, I just got an AI overview that states da 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 around North Houston, blah blah blah." And then your client's going, "Wow, they took the time to do that." And to your guys' point, you and Josh talked about that. It takes like what, 30 seconds or less?
Second. Yeah, I mean, you can say, "Hey, we get a monthly thing from KCRER with the market report." You can put a screenshot of that in there and say something as simple as, "Hey, help me make a short Facebook post that summarizes this and explains what it means to a potential buyer or seller," and make it like a 10th grade level so any idiot can figure it out. Or you can say, and add some humor, make it interesting. You can do whatever you want. And you don't have to think it. It just does it. Shelby did say, wanted to remind everybody about the team call at 2:00, the team meeting, team training thing at 2. So, but
Yeah, Sandy, great add on to that as well. Today with Tina Bernine, if I said that right, the Tina team from Overland Park, they're having hot dogs at 1:30 and classes at 2 p.m. It will be great stuff. So if you're a team or thinking about it. So very good. Does anybody have any parting thoughts?
So that class today will be like a mastermind type. So it's not all listening. It's questions you may have about starting or fixing your team. I don't know. It's all those things. So I think it's going to be great.
If I
And
didn't
that's
RSVP, you think I can still swing by?
Yes, we'll have a hot dog for you. And I think
food
there's
brings
some
people together.
popcorn too. So, but yeah, you guys, I think you should lean in, even if you haven't started a team, or if it's even a little bit of thinking about it. It could throw you over the edge. You never know. To start with.
Thank you, Sandy, for getting her to come because she is so full of information. So having her at our fingertips like this is like, how often do you get an agent that has built the Agent Kickstart program and this massive team at your fingertips for a whole hour? So
Right.
good work, Miss Sandy.
Well, thank you, Shelby.
I love being your co-partner.
Yeah, so anybody who wants to come that hasn't RSVP'd, please come. I'm sure we have something for you.
So we're at 11 o'clock, or well, now, okay, there it turned over. So we're at 11 a.m. So I just hope you guys have a blessed day, man. And Southland's a pretty great team. So
Yes, it is.
make it a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Okay,
Way to
thank you.
go,
Bye-bye.
guys. Great call, John.
Yeah, great
Excellent.
call, John.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ladies.
Hey, Sandy.